Madam Chair, you have 3 aye votes, 1 abstention. The motion does move.
It's the moment Joe Biden's win in Michigan was made official, with the state certifying the former vice president's victory over Donald Trump. Shortly after, a federal government agency sent this letter informing the Biden team it's ready to help in the transition. The belated recognition of Biden as president-elect sparked a rally on Wall Street.
That abyss that was really getting created around security issues and around policy issues being lifted, and I think the market's reveling in that fact alone.
It may have taken President Trump weeks to come to grips with reality, but Biden's already hard at work preparing for his new job. He's set to pick former Federal Reserve Chairperson Janet Yellen to head the Treasury Department. She would be the first woman to hold the post, but that's not what investors are celebrating.
Yellen as Treasury Secretary and Powell as the Fed Chair is a dovish combination that the markets are going to like. That's simply because both are focused on unemployment, and this is really key.
Let's get used to it.
Biden's also named former Secretary of State John Kerry as his special envoy to lead the government's response to the climate crisis. The appointment shows the seriousness with which Biden views global heating. In contrast, deregulation under Trump has benefited dirty industries like coal and oil. Trump also took the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord, a deal Kerry helped negotiate.
Building out your infrastructure, building your grid, building solar, building wind, doing the things we need to do to harness new energy. That's a job creator. And that's why many of us object so much to the current administration in Washington.
America's allies are also reaching out to the incoming president. In separate phone calls, NATO boss Jens Stoltenberg and European Council President Charles Michel called on Biden to rebuild transatlantic ties. He's given those tasks to State Department veteran Jake Sullivan, who will be his national security advisor, and longtime aide Anthony Blinken, who will be the new Secretary of State.
There's been some damage done that is going to take some time to dig ourselves out of. But there's no doubt that Joe's got the right people to do it.
Investors are still waiting on Biden to fill out the rest of his cabinet. But based on the picks he's already made, the message is clear. It's time to dump everything that came with Trump. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
Well, for more, let's go to Gregory Daco in New York. He's the chief US economist at Oxford Economics. Welcome to the program, Gregory. Now, the Dow Jones has hit 30,000 points for the first time ever after US President Donald Trump officially gave the green light for the Joe Biden transition. Now, Trump support, I'm seeing comments from Trump supporters saying that it's the current president who should take credit for this. And in a way, he can, can't he? Because it is his, I guess, formal approval of this transition that sparked this rally.
Well, I think we have to be careful as to what's driving the market rally. We have had a lot of optimism in terms of the vaccine developments. The news has been quite encouraging, with 3 companies now showing the potential for a very efficient vaccine that would be readily available sometime by the middle of 2021. So there is very encouraging news in terms of the prospects for the health situation and the economic situation, which I think is in large part driving the market. From a transition perspective, I think we have to assume that there will be a little bit of a favorable impetus in terms of increased political certainty, but I wouldn't necessarily expect a major fiscal impulse from the new administration.
Okay, now investors are also excited by the prospect that the former US Federal Reserve Chair, Janet Yellen, could become America's next Treasury Secretary under a Joe Biden administration. What is it about her that excites some investors?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. that are generally positive. She has tremendous experience in terms of policy making. She has experience at the Fed, and she has a lot of background in terms of her just broad political and policy experience. And having her at the helm of the Treasury will be quite beneficial in today's environment because it will entice greater collaboration between the Treasury and the Fed, which will play a big role in terms of restarting potentially some of the main emergency lending facilities that are slated to expire at the end of this year, but also, and perhaps more importantly, act as an important liaison between the White House and Congress in trying to pass some of Biden's fiscal agenda, in particular, if there is still a small majority of Republicans controlling the Senate.
And we know when Joe Biden does become president next January that he'll have a huge job on his hands, millions unemployed, an economy that's barely growing under this pandemic. Do investors, are they confident that Joe Biden has got what it takes in order to see the American economy through these current headwinds?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. There is a great dichotomy between the state of the economy and what markets are looking to. Markets are surfing a wave of optimism in terms of a vaccine development and the potential end of this COVID crisis. But still, the economy is in a very deep hole, and Joe Biden is inheriting a relatively frail economy. What is needed today is a bridge to get us from the situation we're in today into the future, which is a brighter future, a post-COVID world where we see stronger economic activity. And that bridge will have to be a policy bridge that will involve everybody from the White House, the Treasury, the Fed, and Congress to try to promote a strong, coordinated effort to get us into a situation where the economy regains its pre-COVID dynamism and enters 2021 and goes into 2022 with a lot stronger growth and a lot stronger momentum.
And what about Joe Biden's economic agenda? Because we know that he hasn't made a secret of the fact that he's looking to raise taxes on the super wealthy in America. He also wants to roll back some of these sweeping corporate tax cuts that were introduced back in 2017. Even though we have investors currently welcoming the prospect of a Joe Biden presidency, are they likely to be scared off when he does implement his agenda?
Well, I think the initial market reaction to Biden being elected and Republicans retaining control of the Senate was actually quite positive because some of the elements of Biden's fiscal agenda would not be promotable under this type of political setup. What we're looking at in terms of Biden's agenda is fiscal agenda is an agenda that promotes increased government spending on social services, education, infrastructure, which are generally stimulative to growth, but as you mentioned, some tax increases, but predominantly focused on large companies as well as income earners with incomes in the very high levels. Presumably, most of these increases in taxes would fall on people earning over $1 million a year, and they would probably not be put in place before 2022, because I doubt that the administration would want to raise taxes as we're still digging ourselves out of a deep hole. So looking at the broader picture from an investor's perspective, this is generally conducive to stronger growth because I don't necessarily expect that this fiscal agenda will be put forward, but there will be greater multilateralism and increased policy certainty, which are going to be key drivers of growth going forward.
Okay, Gregory Daco from Oxford Economics in New York. Thank you so much again for joining us on the program.
Thank you.